just introduce himself to us. You on?
All right. Well, absolutely. Certainly Jermaine McNair here. I am an instructor, and one of my newer titles, actually, most recent titles, an instructor over at East Carolina
Okay.
and at Pitt Community College,
Go
an
ahead.
instructor of sociology. But most folks know me as a community organizer and nonprofit director of the local nonprofit NC Civil.
Okay.
That's a Greenville-based organization that works for grassroots community development. And most recently, we've been working to charter the now newly chartered
Okay.
100 Black Men of Eastern North Carolina, where I'll be serving in an active role as president.
Oh, that is awesome. And so that we're looking forward to that. Can you tell us a little bit about what y'all do with the 100 Black men?
Absolutely. So that's an easy one, a lot easier than what we do, all that we do with NC Civil. 100 Black Men is about mentoring.
Okay.
And it's about minority male mentoring. That's primary, right?
Okay.
But the larger conversation around it is because if we just say mentoring, well, a ton of people are mentoring.
That's right.
You got organizations everywhere. We've got fraternities that do great mentoring.
Yes.
We've got churches in their groups that all offer great mentoring, right? And so many other groups. But the 100 Black Men of Eastern North Carolina will serve as a platform for all men, right? Because what we know is that fraternities do great work, and I love all of our brothers. Shouts out to all the bros.
That's right. That's right.
But typically, you need to have some kind of a university affiliation to be there, right? And we know that church groups have to by nature put our faith first, right? So sometimes, even when we don't want to, that can create a barrier for everybody in being involved. And I'll tell you something else. I've been doing this work with NC Civil, the organization I founded, for quite some time, but you do the work so long that people start to see that as your thing.
Right.
So people tend to see, oh, well, NC Civil, that's Jay's thing, that's Jermaine's thing, right? What we wanted was something that's nobody's thing, but that if you are a Black male, you can have the opportunity to be paired with a young Black male and provide mentoring services. And we can begin to talk about what collective power, meaning the power of we, right? Where all of us can come together. So that's what the 100 Black Men will be doing. And then there is, along with the focus of mentoring, there are 3 other things that we lift up along with that. And that is education.
Yes.
Health and wellness.
Okay.
And then economic empowerment.
Come on.
So those are our 4 pillars that we stand on. And you will see programs, not only the one-on-one mentoring, but you typically find with local 100 Black Men chapters, you typically find something like a Saturday Academy.
Okay.
Where they provide educational training and educational support on Saturdays to young men.
I think that's wonderful.
And then you'll find health and fitness activities in the community. We've got a small health and fitness group going on already right now.
Oh, wow.
So just a good, essentially what you're going to see is the Black male presence begin to be reaffirmed in our communities.
That's correct. And I think that's so important. It's so important. You know, already as Black men, we already feel like we, as what W.E.B. Du Bois said, that we're the second son. In other words, you know, other races you don't hear like, you know, well, I'm Italian American, I'm Irish American, I'm Russian American. You know what I'm saying? Japanese American. They just say I'm American. Whereas when we say we're African American, not taking anything from it, but it's like you try to put, it's almost like we have a little gap, and we always feel like we have to be a part of that talented 10% to have anything, but we want to let people know that, and I'm going to stand with y'all. So, because when we say, because I can say, y'all are going to do, no, we're going to do. So, yeah, so we're going to do. So we already feel like that. A lot of people feel like, well, if you don't have the educational piece all together, then you can't, you're no one. But I believe that y'all going to try to bridge the gap between.
We're already bridging it. It's already embedded in the leadership. Even within our executive planning committee that's been working behind the scenes to make this happen, all of them are not, you know, formally educated.
Okay,
so
awesome.
we're already breaking those barriers within our leadership structure now.
That's awesome. Can you step back and tell us a little bit about North Carolina Civil before we really get into the other part? Can you tell us a little bit about North Carolina Civil?
Yeah, sure. So again, you know, NC Civil, when I say grassroots community development, right? That's an important piece, because when we think about community development, we often think institutional resources. We think who's building the houses, who's building this or doing that, right?
Right.
But we got a ton of communities going on where the houses are there, the buildings are there, but no one has ever invested in building the people. Right. And so that's what grassroots community development is about. And when you look at communities where neighborhoods are weak and communities are weak, it's a social and economic infrastructure that has been weakened in those communities. In fact, when we look at racism in general, right, the big umbrella of racism, a lot of people think that the greatest harm that racism does to communities is the stuff you see on the surface, like the lower education attainment, the high unemployment rates, the high rates of health disparities, right? And we look at that and we see that on the surface and we say that's the effect of racism. But no, the greatest harm that racism and structural racism has done to our communities is that it has distanced us away from the support, the structural support that our communities need in order to ward off those disparities, right? You look at a body, right? If your body is healthy, you can catch a cold, but a strong body can fight it off, just like a strong community can fight off certain things. So when you find a community so weak that it can't fight off those disparities, that's in the organ, that's in the body of that community that needs to be strengthened.
That's correct.
So we go and we do the outreach. We go out and we knock on doors. We host the community events. We engage with the residents. And that gives us the opportunity to just learn, right? Learn about what their issues are. Shoot, not just issues, learn about what their hopes are, learn about what their goals are, right? And then from that, we begin to do organizing and partnership development. And when I say partnership development, then we bring in outside partners and maybe look at where we can match resources with needs and desires. But we leverage a model called community-centered programming so that whenever we start reaching outside, we have a model, a framework, an equity model, and equity frameworks to make sure that as those resources step in, they don't disrupt things so much and almost further inequities. Because sometimes when you go to deal with those major institutions, they end up perpetuating more inequities than they're solving, right? And so a lot of times we don't have the structure in order to, I dare say, make them act and function differently when they engage with us. So having NC Civil as a community-based organization and our ability to play that role means that we might be working in space around education, healthcare, criminal justice, youth development, or anything. But you can assure that the same community-centered programming models are going to be there to make sure that when our community is engaged with our local institutions, that can be done with true equity and partnership, so we can get the resources we need, but not in a way that harms us in the long run.
Oh, that's good.
So that's what we do all day long. But that also gives me the mandate as executive director of NC Civil, under the understanding that in order to have a strong community, a community must have its own institutions and organizations.
That's right.
A community has to have its own community-based institutions and organizations. So you could also see us working like we worked, a year and a half ago to help create an artist group because they needed to be organized. Or you might see us working to help launch another organization that we will have no connection to except for understanding that it's needed in our community. And right now, that's why as executive director of NC Civil, it was perfectly fine within that vision to step aside and say, we're going to charter the 100 Black men. Because you would normally see a nonprofit director going to work to build another nonprofit, right? But we know that in order to have a strong community, the community can't just survive within NC Civil. We've got to have several community-based organizations that we run, that we operate, that meet our unique needs, the way our community is designed, right? So 100 Black men, 100 Black men is one of those needs that has been pressing. We need that collective presence of strong Black men to have a platform where they can invest that strength back into our communities and into the lives of our young men.
That is awesome. I was thinking about not too long ago, I actually was talking to somebody yesterday, and we're talking about how Robert Smith, when he went to Morehouse, he ended up paying every last one of those young men's, paying for everybody. He said, hey, all y'all that are here today, your education is paid for and it's free. And oftentimes, a lot of times what we don't realize, whenever we help someone get a good and proper education, everybody's value go up. Everybody's values goes up. And if it's in the community, I was looking at I think I was looking at how with W.E.B. Du Bois,
Mhm.
when he got his education, people around the community helped him get to Harvard.
Yeah.
And then when he got his master's and his PhD,
He came back.
He came back and he helped lift the other brothers up. And oftentimes we don't really realize the importance of esteeming one another. And one of the things that you have to keep in mind when you're doing it, and if y'all like to, could you put your headphones on? This is yours.
Absolutely.
And that's his. And you'll be able to keep up with the radio. Oh, that's his. All right. So we took a moment. I figured I'd do it at one time. But when we lift each other up in the community, okay, let me put it another way. Most of the times you see wealthy homes around other people with wealth have homes together.
Mm-hmm.
To put a home that is lower standard or that's decrepit and about to fall over,
Brings their value.
It brings everybody's value down. So people generally live in the same housing community, have sometimes the same economic condition.
Correct.
So then it behooves us to edify our brothers and to help build them up.
Correct.
Help build them up. So now we have someone that I'm familiar with, and in a different realm, I guess the realm of mental health, is here with us. None other than Garrett Todd. Brother Todd, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm doing wonderful. Matter of fact, if I were any better, it'd be two of you.
That's right.
All right. So now you were saying the things that North Carolina Civil do to lift things up, lift the people up. Now we're gonna go make the segue to the 100 Black Men of America.
Absolutely.
All right. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah. So again, like I said, that at the core of 100 Black Men, and our local chapter will be called the 100 Black Men of Eastern North Carolina.
Okay.
So it's important that we make that distinction for Eastern North Carolina,
Absolutely.
right? Because this is not just a Greenville organization or even a Pitt County organization.
Right.
While that will be our hub and our headquarters, just like we are a beacon of light and resources for the East anyway.
Right.
But the goal is for our presence in the Eastern North Carolina to support the presence of strong Black men in Eastern North Carolina. And we hope that we can support the outgrowth of other chapters that will grow in different areas, like potentially Elizabeth City or Wilmington or in any areas around the East, right? So we're going to help get that thing jump started here.
I love that. Let me say this. Anybody that's trying to find where we are and want to share it, you can go to either Awesome Radio on Facebook, or you can go to GPAT TV also on Facebook, and you can share it from there. So Awesome Radio, if you want to go on Facebook, and I'm going to tell you, go ahead on and share it, tag in 10 people, and just share it. You can find us on Awesome Radio. I have it on my platform, Kingdom of Heaven Ministries, but you can look at awesomeradio.org. You can also go look at GPAT TV. Please share this. Let the brothers know in this community that the 100 Black Men of Eastern North Carolina will be having a special event on Sunday. I'm sorry, gentlemen. On Sunday. Can you tell us about that? We're going to come back and keep saying it over and over again.
That's what we're talking about. Now,
Right.
This Sunday at 1 p.m., we're calling out to all of our brothers and all of our community members in Eastern North Carolina. We want you to get down to Greenville. We're going to be in the downtown area of Greenville at what we locally call 5 Points Plaza, but the address is 500 Evans Street. We're going to meet there at 1 p.m. We're going to gather up. As you said, we're going to edify our brothers. We're going to introduce ourselves to our brothers. We're going to build up each other and acknowledge each other, and then we're going to walk, right? Now, this is a silent flash mob walk, a silent demonstration where we're going to walk from 5 Points Plaza about a half mile up to the historic town commons, where the historic Sycamore Hill community and now is no longer there, but has a memorial in honor of that historic community, now removed due to urbanization, if you will. So we're going to walk to that town common, and we're going to have just a few words to share to uplift our brothers a little more, and also give more information about what we will be doing through the 100 Black Men of Eastern North Carolina, and how folks can join, and how families and community organizations can sign young people up to be paired with a mentor.
That is so awesome. So we want to introduce you in, and you can just kind of share what you have with us.
All right, Brother Forbes. Well, it's good always to see you and talk to you again.
Yes.
And actually, I want to back up a little bit because when you introduced me, you talked about a different place with mental health, because we've been known each other for years in the mental health realm. And honestly, this is the same. To me, this is the same thing.
Right.
Working together, being in unison. This is a feel good moment. This is a rebuilding moment in our community. We have generational traumas, generational issues that have been going on. And I think one of the biggest issues that we've had so far is that the men haven't been stepping up to be the leaders of the community. Now, I don't want to minimize the impact of social indicators such as slavery and Jim Crow and all those other factors. But whatever it is, today we're here. And we can't sit and complain about the past. We have to change the future. Right. So this is a future moment. This is, this is we're in Africa. This is Black History Month, and I think to quote the great philosopher Kanye, I want to be Black Future Month. I want us to be the future. Right. I want us to go back and talk about how we're going to change the community, how we're going to impact the people around us, and so every brother that's coming out. We want to ask you, we want to challenge you to come back and be a part of this community. And listen, even if it's not with this organization, I think this is by far one of the greatest opportunities we have for unison and working together. But even if it's not this organization, do good in the community. Be mindful about what we're doing. This is a call to action. And along with that, we want to invite all of our young brothers. And I want to make a challenge to any brother who might be listening, who might want to come out, to grab a young person, whether it be, don't just show up, don't leave your son at home and come out here and look good with us at the town commons. We want you to bring your sons, your nieces, your nephews. We want you to bring a community member, somebody you mentor, and bring them along. If they don't have a suit, go get them one. If you can't get them one, inbox one of the brothers. We'll try to connect. But what we want to do right now is we want to make a statement, and nothing about this. And the last time the 100 suit, I want to not to go too far in the opposite direction, because we want to make sure everything's positive. But a couple there were questions about this being a movement of appeasement. This is not about appeasing anybody else. This is a statement about us. When we're talking about what's internal within our community, we want to make sure that everyone knows that when you put on a suit, when you look good, you feel good. And there's a reason why when you go to a nightclub, you go to an event. If I go to an event and everybody's letting people in with pants sagging and sneakers, I'm leaving. Right. Because it's going to be some mess. Right. But when I go to an event, I look through the door and I see everybody in suits and they're looking good and they're dressed nicely. Then that's the event I want to go to. That's right. Because what's the outside is a reflection of what's on the inside. And we want those two things to match. And so I don't care what kind of suit it is. It could be an African suit. It could be one that you got off the rack. It could be one that you got from your great-great-grandfather. That's right. And we have brothers. Nostalgic. Right. We can get this. Man, no jokes. That's the best thing I think, Jay. You can chime in on this. But one of the most beautiful things for me in the last march was that the fact that you saw brothers some brothers were fresh out of jail, and they were standing beside the district attorney, because shout out to Ferris. Ferris was down there that weekend, and you see these two brothers in the coffee shop, and I just ate coffee shop and a Black-owned coffee. That's shop, right. Tea shop, Sane. Shout out to Sane. Shouts out to Sane. Did I say it right? Was this? Yeah. We and Jay Harrison and the fellas, but we want to see those two men from polar opposites sitting down and having a conversation about how to move forward. It's powerful. The brother who just got out, I think he basically was grabbing whatever he could get that day, but he was welcomed, he was received, and it's just a moment where we can stand together. We're not nearly on the level of the 100 Million Man March, anything like that. But to me, it's the same feeling. We want to create that feeling everywhere. We want to keep that moving going.
I've been in arenas with pretty much African-American men where there was over 20,000 men. Yeah. And I can tell you that the feeling was duplicated. When I walked down the street, matter of fact, I'm gonna tell you the truth. When I saw it, I was looking at Kevin Faison page and I saw him out there and everybody's sitting around. I said, "Wait a minute, what's going on?" I'm headed to church. So then I had to move the church timing because I'm the pastor. I moved everybody's timing and I said, I told my son, how quick can you get dressed?
Wow.
And we jumped in, jumped out, jumped in the cars, told the guys, told everybody, get your car, head down.
Wow.
And then I didn't, because I thought I was going to be super late. So I went on park and walked, start heading toward the courthouse.
Mm-hmm.
And we all jumped out there, and it was the same type of feeling.
Come on. Now.
There's a team spirit
Yes.
that you feel when you're connected with your brothers.
That's right.
There's a level of camaraderie. There's a level of uplift that you feel. No pun intended. But there's a level of uplift that you feel when you're around your brothers and you see that there's value.
That's right.
That's value.
And let me tell you, you know, you mentioned something about the beautiful dynamic of sometimes when we saw those polar opposites that were standing side by side. But I'm gonna tell you something else, right? There are a whole bunch of same brothers, like-minded brothers,
yes,
that you know that are still alpha men. They got their own thing. You got your, you know, you got your brother Rodney that's over there with altitude, right? And you got your Willie Joyner that's over there with height. And I could the list. You got your brother Kevin Faison and all the good work he's doing with the brothers and the Sigmas and his own organization, right? But what happens is, you know, Chris Godley and the list goes on, right? But we're all in our spaces, and we know the spirit of these brothers are awesome, right?
Yes.
But all we can bear to manage sometimes is a salute in passing. Hey, how you doing? Years go by when we know we're in each other's presence of greatness, and all we got to do is just get to a table and we're gonna move some mountains.
That's right.
But the mountains that have been presented before us, that we kind of set before us before we met each other, that's our chosen battles that we fight. So we're all trapped within our battles and not tapping into that larger spirit of the we, right? So us, along with the ability to bring people from different walks of life, but there's so many of us that share a similar power that if we could bring that thing together, we would move some things, right?
That's correct.
So that day was the first time that I had been surrounded by all the bros. And we just take a moment to be like, yo, we've been saying we're gonna get together for 3 years. We've been saying we're gonna sit. Now we're here.
Come on.
Now what we gonna do?
Right.
You know what I mean? So because, you know, as our brother Brandon Dawson said, you know, that last walk that we did 6 months ago back in June, that was not the thing.
Right.
That was the thing before the thing.
Right.
This right here is the thing. We first came together and we said, let's just get together.
Right.
We'll figure out what we're gonna do, but we need to get together. We need to edify each other. We need to strengthen each other. But once we got there, we said, well, we need to get to work. Now that's why we are now returning back to that same location with the same event, the same 100 men in suits. But this time we are launching the officially newly chartered 100 Black Men of Eastern North Carolina, and we are announcing with a bullhorn of this event to our community that we are now ready and open for the business of mentoring our young people. And we're gonna get to work.
Right. Yeah. You know, it's funny. When you said something, Jermaine, and about the brothers coming together, and it just reminded me of the scripture. Behold, how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell together in unity. It's like the precious ointment upon thy head that ran down to the beard. Yeah. And so, you know, when you have that togetherness with the brothers, that time it's precious. The Bible said it was precious. Yes. That we come together. And so when we're here, this is precious. And you know, and you know, even when Jesus said, when two or more are gathered in my name, there shall I be. When you have brothers of like attainments together, you know, making movements together, that's when you're opening up the door for greatness. And you know, we can accomplish. We've been in a people who, you know, so many people are making money by keeping us separated. Right.
Come on now.
That's how it's done.
You got this church. I gotta say my church is better than your church, so you can come to my. That's right. You can come and
make everybody have the fear of missing out.
Right. You know, I'm a Baptist, and this brother's Muslim. I gotta say that being a Baptist is better than being a Muslim because you know I gotta show that they're bad, so I can be better. We need to be in a position now as a people where, listen, I don't know who's right. And it's not my job to know who's right. What I know right now that there's a kid downtown that needs us. That's right. There's a community that needs us. So we can deal with this later. All those conversations about whether, you know, what financial systems we invest in, what religious system we invest in. None of that matters if we're leaving behind a generation of kids lost because the men didn't step up. And so to me, this is the time for us to step up and let's do what we're supposed to do. And again, I think Jay, you pointed out, so many of the brothers are already doing it. But how great can your work be if you had 2 more brothers in that space?
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? If I came in, I had 8 brothers lifting the table, but then 2 more brothers came in and lifted a hand. How much lighter is that work going to be?
That's
so
right.
yeah, we all doing the work, but sometimes, my dad, when I was younger, my dad used, he used to build houses,
right.
And he wasn't professional at all. This was, but he would call his friends over, and he would have chicken and beer. Mm-hmm. And I remember my grandmother. I was a little boy when they built my grandmother's house.
So they had carbs to work.
Really, listen. That's how it was. And they would do this once a weekend. If they had a project, they would call their brothers together, their fellas together, and they would work together. And the only currency was chicken and beer, and sitting back, chicken, beer, and fellowship was the only currency exchanged. And they built houses together. What kind of houses can we build? Can we build if we just come together?
That's right. And if I may, I don't know if we're being approached by a break, but another thing that's important.
There's no breaks in this show.
Perfect. So, there's another dynamic that we're fighting against here, and that this is an opportunity for us to gain some victories in this fight, right? By us historically being behind economically, right? That means that if you look at my hands, right, our community has always been set behind us, where the victory has always been set before us in the opposite direction. So most of us, in order to attain success, we had to kind of put that stuff behind us and march forward into institutions of education, into the institutions of employment, into the areas where the resources and the wealth are held, right? Which historically wasn't us. Now the greatest members of us could maybe earn enough freedom to come back and invest in our communities a Saturday here and there, right? But it's almost like earning your freedom, because you can't just say, oh, freely, I'm going to go and solely invest in the communities where my people live, because the wealth is not obtained there. So you got to do that work for free, right? And so that's what freedom is for me, because I was also, not only am I an instructor and executive director and all those other things, but I'm also at one point in time a returning citizen who served years in federal prison, right, for the life that I lived. So as I began to set my path forward and see freedom for myself, one of the things I knew that freedom was for me was the freedom to determine that my community was valuable enough for my time.
That's right.
Now I'm going to back that up and say that again, because see, this idea of us having the power to say that community over there is valuable enough for me to go invest there. The reason why there's no typically theoretically and uniformly no money there for us is because no big wealth pockets have set up that type of price tag on any of the work there.
Right.
So most of the places where you're going to go get a check for your energy, no one's going to give you a check and say, now go work in your community.
Right.
They're going to give you a check and say, go work on this thing over here. Right. That's mine, whatever.
They bring value to me.
So the fact that they are ahead meant that they were able to usurp all of the talent from our communities, and we had to pledge our energy towards that direction before. And maybe we thought we would get back to our communities one day. But if you go take a walk in our communities, what you will see is a divestment of men, not this year, not the past 5 years, not the past 20 years. And we could talk about the civil rights all we want. I ain't talking about in the past 60 years. We have not gained the freedom to fully invest in our communities at all. So if you walk over there and look at what our young people have to go through before they ever reach 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, right? They have to grow up in divestment. What I'm talking about is all this greatness that we're talking about, being able to find the power to turn that thing around and say, that land over there, the forgotten land, the land where ain't nobody put no high price tags on, ain't no big return coming from the man from that. But that land over there, we're going to deem that valuable. And we're going to redeem that value. Guess what? By placing ourselves back there. Because we were the value in the first place. They got ahead by getting us. You get what I'm saying? And we think we've been conditioned to think that if we walk away from that, if you will, while we claiming biblical references, right? If we walk away from Rome and go and invest in our own communities, ain't no wealth there. We think the wealth is in the place. The wealth was always in us.
That's
and
right.
it will follow us wherever we go. But how many of us are bold enough to say the place that is ours, we're going to go and redeem that,
That's right.
that value there, because the value is us.
That's right.
All we got to do is go there and get to work. Everywhere we don't need nothing but chicken and beer, as we said.
Absolutely.
Right.
Everywhere we go, we build institutions.
That's right.
So why do we think we are afraid to leave out of Egypt? Right? Why are we afraid to go? And ain't nobody building where we live.
That's right. That's right.
We typically go and grow and end up where they live.
That's
And
right.
and park our house right beside there so we can get that value, right?
That's right. That's
And
right.
and that's not the, you know what I mean? That's
No,
not to
no,
throw
no, no.
anything.
No.
That's just the economic system has been set up that we had to first focus on obtainment. That was just kind of because we couldn't even do that before.
That's correct.
But now we're at a point where we can make a much higher investment. We can play a much greater game, you know, and start looking at, you know, forget communities. We get past this. We start looking at, well, how about we start go to incorporate towns?
That's right.
How about we
That's
start going? I mean, there ain't. I mean, you know, we now just get into the conversation where we're talking about Black-owned towns.
Right. That's right.
We just
That's
getting
right.
there. The fact that we're in America and you can't even really find 20 minutes down the road, we got Princeville,
Amen.
Right.
the first
That's right.
town ever incorporated by African Americans, right? It wouldn't take but 50 good brothers to go down. Shoot, forget, man, you give me 10 good brothers.
Yeah.
We going down to Princeville
Call your dad.
and turn it up. And turn it up. You
That's
get what
right.
I'm saying?
That's right.
So what can we do if we just shake the fear of thinking that if we exit up out that system and go to, shoot, we talking about going home back to Africa, go back to the neighborhood.
That's right.
Absolutely.
You know,
That's
so there's a big opportunity that I think that we're gonna get to with this 100 Black men, because it ain't just about pouring into the kids.
That's right.
It's about reestablishing our presence in our communities and pulling those chips off that table and putting it on our own table.
That's good. That's good.
And let me say this, because on a lot of this, I think sometimes we underestimate ourselves as individuals. And I know somewhere there's a brother listening to this or who might have seen the movement and said, I'm not equipped. You know, and you know, you think about when Jesus, you know, was down by the river and he saw the fishermen, he said, pick up your net and come with me.
That's right.
He didn't say leave your past behind you.
That's
That's
right.
why I love when I hear Jay talk, because he talks about he bringing his net with him. He talks
That's right.
about his past, his background. He says, bring it with me, follow me.
Come
He
on.
didn't tell you to leave it by the water. So
That's
what
right.
I'm saying right now to every brother, no matter what you got going on, take your story, take your place, come and follow us, come with us. And we don't want followers. We want people to walk with
My
us.
brothers.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
That's
We're
right.
all followers of the Most High.
That's
So
right.
we want our brothers to walk with us right now. Pick up your nets. I don't care what your story is, what your background is. You know, we want you to come and stand with us in solidarity and work with us. And like I said, even, you know, the 100 Black Men is an organization. We have dues. I think every penny is worth it when you look at the opportunities that the organization presents and affords us. But even if that's something you say, I don't even want to do that, man. I just want to come out. See, sometimes I think, you know, a lot of times you hear people will criticize without investigating fully. They'll talk about it before listening.
Right.
So just come in here, come and listen and find out what the conversation is about. Tell me you don't catch that feeling. I refuse to believe that you can step in that space that we were in last time
Right.
with the open heart and not feel what we felt. Like it was electric.
It was so beautiful.
Wasn't
Just the music that was playing, the men coming up, everybody, they had everything going on. And then I look and you see the children that were standing there.
That's right.
And they look and they see men of power, men of stature, men saying great things, men giving each other accolades, men reaffirming each other. That's something powerful.
Yeah.
That's something powerful. And oftentimes, you know, we might have been sitting in the home. Some of us might not have sat in the home, or we sat in grandmama, auntie home, and they, men are sorry, or men are this, and men are that. And then on the other note, you see a lot of Black men. Only thing we really see is the jail culture and the rap culture. You see the jail culture. You see, they rapping behind bars. They rapping this and that. But you never see anyone that's a family person that's being lifted up or presented. But in this case, we are coming back to our communities and we're rebuilding.
Yeah,
That's right.
amen.
That's right. And I mean, you talk about the vision of a man, and one of the, I think the motto of the 100 Black Men of America Inc. is that what they see is what they'll be,
Mm.
right? One of the things, along with me and my own kind of, if we can call it a redemption, right?
Yes.
My own turning point for my own story. When I say that I wanted to reclaim my freedom, and a part of that freedom, I'm reiterating something to get to another point. Just like when I said I know I was coming home,
Mm.
and I knew I was going to be successful.
Mm.
But again, I started to feel like being successful meant, dang, I realized that being successful meant not being a part of my community.
Right.
And it was like, whoa, I'm not even free.
Mm.
Because I can't go to my community and build because there ain't no job. The job market literally says you can't go work in your community because there
Right.
ain't no jobs to do that,
That's
right?
right.
So I was like, that's not freedom. So I wanted to solve that. But then this other piece you talk about that I knew I wanted to achieve. And it was like, yeah, you know, BET had spent so much money telling our young kids that if you're going to be somebody, right, then you got to dress like this or act like
Gotta
this or
be
behave
hood,
like
gotta be
this, right?
thug.
Nike spends billions of dollars to convince our young people that, well, if you want to be somebody, better go get them Jordans or them
That's right.
Airs and Maxes or whatever you got to get, right? Everybody's spending billions of dollars to tell our kids what somebodyness is. And then I looked at, you know, the hustler that I grew up
Mhm.
likening myself to, right? And early on became one. It's that he had to earn his scraps in the dark,
Mhm.
behind closed doors, and then show up with the car later.
Right.
Right. It was this feature where when you were in math class back in school, right, you couldn't just show back up in school with the answers to the work. The teacher would say, show the work. Because I need to know how you got it so I can
That's
understand
right.
what you
That's right.
did, right?
Right.
Well, it was a problem with the hustler where he would show up with the answers, with the money to pay the rent and the car and the jewelry, but he couldn't show above board what I did
That's
to
right.
get it. So you had a ton of young people like myself that saw the jewelry, saw the cars, and we didn't see how to get it. Then we saw BET and Nike and everything
Right.
else, but there was no presence of how to get it.
There was a disconnect.
And then the system where we quote unquote get it from is not giving us equity in the system, right? So nothing was matching up. And this crazy thing I started learning about service, and it's the point I'm getting to. It's about service, right? The road to somebodyness
Mhm.
being service, the road to freedom. Because if I was going to go back into my community, it wasn't going to be a job that was going to send me there. It was going to have to be service
That's right.
that sent me there. In fact, coming out of prison, the job they most likely had waiting for me was flipping fries.
That's right.
And that's not a knock to anybody who's serving in that job.
But you
I'm
can't
just
take care of
saying,
your family
I'm just
doing
saying
it.
society had a place
Right.
for me, right? It's service that allowed me to say, well, yeah, I managed in that pizza place when I came home, but I'm gonna go over here in this land over here and I'm gonna do this work. And all of a sudden my identity over here grew well beyond what was going on over here at the job. And I found an entire life. But what I wanted to do was I intentionally wanted to walk out of prison with nothing. And I didn't want to go and earn my scraps and then come back to the neighborhood having went and found success. Now I'm back trying to serve. I wanted to walk into my community empty-handed and serve my way to somebodyness.
That's right.
So if people really pay attention to my story and my walk, some people might try to lie and say, oh no, he had something handed to him, or them folks looked out for him or whatever. But if they really look critically, they can look and take off whatever lenses of you know what we do, the salt we look at people with, right? They'll say, no, that brother walked out of a prison cell and empty-handed with rabbit ears in his pocket began to serve.
Right.
And his somebodyness came through service. Imagine setting that example and our young people being able to see, no, it ain't the Nikes that make you somebody. It ain't you being able to go get a bunch of dollars in your pocket that makes you somebody. It's the impact you have on the world around you, on your community around you. That's how you achieve somebodyness. And for us to be able to do that right in front of their faces, I mean, we're going to show you.
That's right.
We're going to show you.
Compound. We always talk about compound interest when we talk about investing, but we're going to have compound empowerment going on.
Amen.
This Sunday.
Come on now.
All right. So now we have 10 minutes and we want to let them know again, where are we going and what are we doing?
So we're starting down at
Come closer to you, Mike.
was 5 points, right?
Mhm.
We started at 5 points and we're headed down to Town Commons. It's going to be this Sunday, 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we just inviting everybody. We're going to start at 1 o'clock. Brandon opens up with prayer and togetherness. We get everybody up, and then we march down towards. We're going to march down towards Town Commons, aka Sycamore Hill. And I think that's so impactful, because on a place where so much was taken, is where we're going to go and take it back.
That's right.
You know, and I think that the issue, and I think Jay hit some very critical points here, because we in our community, we tend to look outside and say, well, why didn't this person come back and do this?
Right.
Why doesn't that person come back and do this? You know, same thing. I didn't come from the same place, Jay, but I came from a college student. I came home as a college student, fresh out of college, went to work teaching school for my impact. And then after that, you know, I worked with my family. We used the resources that my dad, who was a factory worker, helped to build, and we opened up group homes. And so these things, at this point, it doesn't take an outside force. It doesn't take a LeBron James coming making a donation.
That's right.
We can do this right now.
That's right.
So that you know, Jesse Jackson said, "I am somebody."
That's right.
So we have to stop looking at the outside to say who's going to fix this. Let's gentrify our own neighborhoods. Let's just gentrify our own communities. You know, I look at Harlem right now. Harlem's beautiful.
Yes, it is.
But we could have done that.
We could.
We could have fixed Harlem. Why did we have to let outsiders come and buy up all the property and shut us out before we fixed our own community?
Come on.
We can do that. So let's do that now. We can do that all across. And so to me, I want to set an example today of what we do here and let it echo and reverberate around the world.
That's right. And just as a note, you know, last time when we did this back on June 6th, that was the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
We were trying to avoid the late afternoon heat.
Right.
So we went out there, I believe it was 10 a.m. We did the walk early.
Yeah, you did.
So that created a conflict for a lot of our brothers
people
of faith, right? And community members of faith, right? Well, this time we're in the wintertime.
That's right.
So we need some of that later afternoon heat, right?
Yeah,
So we're
right.
going out there at 1 p.m. Listen,
You appreciate your suit.
listen, you can go to church
Uh-huh.
and you can leave church and come over already with your suit on,
That's right.
Get down here. Listen, if you're not even in Greenville, get here, because here's what we're going to do, right?
Come on.
You can join the 100 and you can be a part of the Eastern North Carolina 100, but let's just say you're from Farmville, right?
Right.
Because we already got a few members from Farmville, and you say there's 5 of the members that are from Farmville.
Mhm.
Well, now you guys are the organizers for events and activities around Farmville,
Correct.
but now you got this whole Greenville arm that's going to come down there and support you.
That's
And
good.
as Farmville, for example, grows in members, or same thing with Kinston, as Kinston grows in members, and we get to the point where we got about 20 members from Kinston,
Come on.
then we're going to say, well, with 25, you charter your own.
Right.
And then you got, you know, some folks down there around New Bern, right? And they say,
Right.
well, we got 15 members from New Bern. Let's see if we can get New Bern to 25, because 25 is kind of the standard. Then
Come
you
on.
guys charter your own,
That's right.
right? So come here and tap into the hub, right?
Yes.
Because what we're gonna do is, you would be, even if it's only 2 of you from Kinston or 3 of you from Wilson, get down here, because now you're gonna be able to go back home and say, we got a whole force of Eastern North Carolina behind us.
Right.
And when we host events, we host them once a month or whatever, they come in town and help us. Imagine when a whole, you know, a whole movement of people shows up in town behind what you're doing.
Right.
Guess what your locals are going to do? They're going to see it more. They're going to jump on board. And
That's
as you
right.
build your numbers, then we're going to say, we're going to support you in chartering your own.
That's
So
right.
don't think you can't come from away and enjoy the event and then get the substance behind it to be able to build in your own communities. That's what we are here to do. So again, wherever you are, get downtown, 1
That's
p.m. at 5 Points Plaza. That's 500 Evans Street downtown. Don't try to remember it. Punch it into your phone. Put it on your calendar. Set notifications. Set timers. Don't send Facebook messages later on talking about, man, I forgot. Don't be coming up in the inbox talking about, man, I was going to do it, but then whatever. You
Right.
know how to pull that device out in front of you and use it as your assistant to help you be on time and be in a place to be when your name is called. We are sending out the bat signal for all of our brothers to pull up, show up, and show out, and we're going to get to work.
There's a level of euphoric empowerment when you see all those men. It's almost like the Bible talks a lot about ants as well. And this is our season to go and build something all together, just marching down, brothers, marching in unity, as you stated. us being there, being empowered, being uplifted. And I think something great and major is going to happen in this area that's going to reverberate around this country.
That's right. Amen. Amen.
We have 4 minutes.
Look, follow, go on Facebook and search out 100 Black Men of Eastern North Carolina, right? Like that page so you can stay up to date with what's going on. And then go to nccivil.org/100BMENC. That's 100 Black Men ENC. nccivil.org, the NC Civil website, /100BMENC, and go ahead and get your membership application filled out. If you scroll down to the bottom of that page, or around midway in that page, you'll see where you can click a link and go ahead and complete your membership application. And then you can go right underneath that and go ahead and set up your dues. You will get a call. One of the brothers will reach out, but that's all you essentially need to get the ball rolling to your membership. This event is about the official launch of the 100 Black Men of Eastern North Carolina. It takes about 5 minutes. Absolutely. Here's what's going down, man. We are finally returning back to the same event we held 6 months ago, where folks were asking, well, what we doing? Yeah. Is it just about the walk? Is it just about suiting up?
Right.
Is it just symbolism without substance?
That's right.
Is it just showing up to be pretty and play respectability politics? Right. And we ain't gonna do nothing like so many others have sold us false hopes in the past?
That's right.
Well, we left that event and we got to work.
Right.
We've been behind the scenes working with National, working with headquarters, working with our brothers down in Atlanta, working with our brothers down with the Triangle East chapter, getting the infrastructure set up, right?
That's right.
So we could return back to you with something that is sound, something that is strong, right? So we are finally announcing to our community that the 100 Black Men of Eastern North Carolina is open for business and open for the business of mentoring and pouring into the lives of our young people.
And let me back up a little bit, Jay, because actually we started this before the march.
Before that.
It was before the march.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been working on this for
a year, right? A little over a year.
And shout out to the chap. I don't want to get off the mic today without giving honor to the brothers who were here before us.
Johnny Ford, Absolute Tarek Cox, Ernest Lee, so many of the brothers.
And Brother Cox has been instrumental about helping us with this chapter, because there was a chapter here that kind of fizzled a little bit before. And for whatever reason, a lot of stuff goes on, life happens. And so they've been instrumental in helping us, guide us to restart this thing. And I don't want to step away without giving the brothers here props. But yeah, we've been working on this for quite some time. And I think it came down to a question. Like we were talking, just the brothers talking, like, yo, man, you ever heard of 100 Black Men? Why don't we have this here? Well, we should do this. And and I think I asked Jay asked Brandon asked, and so at the end of the day, the other Jermaine, and then next thing you know, we got together, we make something happen. And so I think there's it doesn't take many to do the work. And the value of togetherness is not in numbers, but in men, in real brotherhood. So let us be men together, and you can see what we can accomplish. And to me, the other side of this is I pledge Q. Shout out to the bros, and we learned about excuses and about the fact that excuses are tools of incompetence that build monuments of nothing. Those who specialize in their uses seldom accomplish anything. So for us now, there's no more time for excuses.
And we have 20 more seconds.
We're building greatness, and we're not going to settle anymore for excuses.
WBISLP 1069, Winterville, Ayden, Grifton, Southside, Greenville, North Carolina.
Right, so listen, we're still live on Facebook.
You think about never changing, and somebody said, well, he will always, she will always. The only person you can say that about is Jesus Christ. Because only he will always, because he never changes. Whatever he was and whoever he was, he still is today. That is part of the anchor of our faith. There's nothing about his being that will ever change. What friend can you say that about? Somebody says, well, how does God operate today? How does Jesus function today?
Welcome each other. We will embrace each other as brothers.
set
Do
out
you
on a
ever
silent
feel like
walk
God really isn't interested in you? You've prayed, gone to church, believed, but things aren't turning out the way you'd hoped. Today on In Touch, the teaching ministry of Dr. Charles Stanley, you'll hear how your faith can be strong even when God seems far away. Here's part one of The Foundation of Unwavering Faith.
When the storms of life blow across your path, where do you turn? Do you find yourself easily blown off course? Do you find yourself fragmented in your thinking? Does doubt and fear begin to plague you, and you begin to question the fact that God really does care? You know what he said, I'll never leave you nor forsake you, and yet when those times hit us, sometimes we're prone to think, well, God, if you really cared, if you really loved me, you wouldn't let this happen. When oftentimes God has a very specific purpose for allowing these things that come into our life to be there. And sometimes we have a little flaw in our faith, and we think, well, he's not there. He doesn't care. If he did, and we give all these reasons. So what I want you to do is I want you to listen carefully to this message, because herein lies the foundation of our faith. And if you can simply grasp this truth, it's a simple truth, but a profound truth.